Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Jordy Culotta Show presented by Go Chevrolet. Welcome aboard. If you're watching on YouTube, we appreciate it. If you're inside the bunker, make sure and give a like, share, comment on the post. We appreciate that as always here on this Wednesday morning. Remember, our coffee every day is presented by Metropolitan Health Group. Shout out to Charlie Harvey and Jason Ramazan and the crew over there. Real doctors, real solutions, providing our coffee every day. And Go Chevrolet driving us, conveniently located in Laplace, Louisiana. Whether you're making the trip to New Orleans from Baton Rouge or heading to Baton Rouge from South Louisiana, stop in and see Nick Richard and Lee Carney along the way as they are running Go Chevrolet over at Laplace, Louisiana, and online at GEAUXChevrolet.com. Looking forward to today's show. We've got a big one as Richard Lipsey will be in the undisclosed location. An hour from now, we will sit down with the well-accomplished Louisiana native, somebody who cares greatly about our state, the accolades and the resume and everything that he's accomplished. The list is very long. He is a graduate of LSU in '61. He graduated from the Harvard Business School in 1987. Obviously, he comes from a long line of successful businessmen, Steinbergs, sports, and Lipsey's here in Baton Rouge. He has been on the Board of Regents. He has been on the LSU board. He is very involved in higher education. He was also a key piece to the coaches committee being started with Skip Bertman in the early 80s when Skip took the job here. We'll ask him about the rise of LSU baseball, his thoughts on LSU athletics. We'll ask him to take us back a couple of years to the Joe Oliva, F. King Alexander saga and where that is presently. Really looking forward to our conversation with Mr. Richard Lipsey coming up here at 8 o'clock this morning. A friend who is stopping by the undisclosed location that we are very grateful for coming up an hour from now. We will also talk to Billy Napier, who is the head football coach of the UL Ragin Cajuns. Napier will stop by here at 7:30. I don't know if there's a hotter name in college football as far as someone who is projected and tabbed to be a Power 5 big coach than Napier. He interviewed at South Carolina. He interviewed at Auburn, Mississippi State, asked to interview him last season. He is waiting on the perfect opportunity, but right now he's got Lafayette rolling. Over the last 3 seasons, they have had a piece of the Sun Belt title, and he is recruited at such a high level. We're looking forward to talking to Coach Napier coming up here at 7:30 this morning. Then we'll close out the show with Whitney Breaux, who will be in at the end of the hour to give us a little bit of what we will be starting here on the Jordy Culotta Show. A little Women Crush Wednesday with Whit. That we will highlight some of the stories in sports or some of the stories in pop culture. The crew is here. Katie is here. Nick is here. Mikey's here, and Lloyd is here on this Wednesday morning. So we're filled up in the undisclosed location. We will answer your questions at some point this morning. Whenever we have a crack in the programming, we will get them in. So if you drop the hashtag Ask the Jordy Culotta Show or Ask the JC Show, we will get your questions asked and answered coming up here during the 8 o'clock hour at some point. A couple of places to start this morning. LSU Basketball last night in Athens laid just a stinky egg on the floor. Never looked like they were right from the tip-off last night. Didn't even look like they got off the buses. Coach Wade was talking about it earlier this week, and then John Brady yesterday was talking about Severe Wheeler, who really chopped up LSU the first time in January during that 94-92 overtime win that Wade and LSU were able to accomplish just over a month ago. But Wheeler went off last night. First time in Georgia basketball history that a Bulldog gets a triple-double. Wheeler, who is a 5'10 sophomore from Houston, had 14 points, 11 boards, and dished out a career-high 13 assists. It just never got right for LSU. It never seemed like they were engaged in the game. They never seemed like they could get any shots falling. No, I got some right here. And it was just very inconsistent. If there was anything that you could brother, gonna be a long day. Gonna be a long day. We get a swig of this water here somewhere.
Get a hot toddy.
Yeah.
A lemon.
I thought I was getting better since Monday.
Yeah, still some residual effects.
Yeah, I know.
I thought you got rid of all of it.
That muffin ain't going out without a fight.
Sheesh. Good to see Dr. Chad Spillers in the bunker this morning. But LSU basketball last night. It's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. Just deal with it today, boys. Just going to have to deal with it. But it was just brutal last night, man. It was brutal. Cameron Thomas had 21. He led LSU. Javante had 19. Trenton Watford had 13. Jalen Cook, who I thought has been a breath of fresh air coming off the bench the last couple of games, had 11. But LSU, they shot 33% in the first half.
Gross.
They committed 8 of their 11 turnovers in the first 20 minutes.
Gross.
They got it to 79-67 with about 5 minutes left to play, but they couldn't get any closer than that. The weekend is going to be a big test for this group. Arkansas on Saturday, who LSU was needling with, going back and forth, tied for second in the conference. Arkansas is playing with a lot of confidence. They'll go to Fayetteville on Saturday, and then they'll be in Baton Rouge on March 2nd to close out the regular season versus Vanderbilt. We were talking about things yesterday along the lines of 6-7 seed, a possibility. Now you're back in that 8 to 10 range when you're talking about closing out the season, with the possibility of going 1-2 in your last 3 games. I think that they're going to be underdogs versus Arkansas on Saturday. With the way that they played last time out, now it's much more than the execution that you've got to get right before the next contest. They've got to get their head right. They've got to mentally get stable before they make this road trip.
Should I go ahead and start tweeting about it?
I was going to ask you last night with that when they got to that number 79-67 to go ahead and tweet something out.
I really thought about it. I really did.
I was hoping you would, because they needed you last night. They needed the kiss of death, the Katie tweet with about 5 minutes left to see if they couldn't get back in it.
Put them to bed.
It could have the opposite effect. It could take the winning team and make them lose at that point, So we didn't even find out.
We don't know.
We got to find out.
I was actually looking for, this is a great win for Georgia.
This is
Georgia with a huge win tonight.
So turns it around, yeah.
Next thing you know, LSU on a 20-0 run to close out the game and get back to Baton Rouge with a win. But look, they have shown over the last month that they can quickly turn it around. I think last night was another example of that, of how a good thing can kind of fall off for LSU basketball. For the last 3 games, as good as they've played, it fell down. It fell off the cliff yesterday. And I guess that transitions us into our next story of Tiger Woods.
Oh my goodness!
Was that brutal?
Wow.
Was that brutal?
No, he's alive. If he had taken a turn for the worse, I guess you wouldn't make those jokes. People were coming at people that were making fun of Tiger Woods yesterday. The Tiger Woods army is not to be trifled with.
Why would you make fun of him?
There were people saying hoax and all these other things.
Hoax.
Yeah, it was KFC. You didn't see him on Twitter. He's like, hoax city population Tiger Woods. They thought it was fake. They thought he wasn't hurt. That's people on the internet.
KFC from Barstool was saying that?
Yeah. So
wow.
That's people on the internet.
That's horrible.
I look, I'm not making fun of him because I am a part of the Tiger army.
Oh, me too, dude.
I love Tiger Woods. For where we grew up and what he meant to our generation, he's the most dominant golfer I've ever seen, and I love the way that he competes. But yesterday, obviously, a very, very scary story for Tiger Woods as he was on his way. Shelley Smith was reporting from ESPN that Woods was actually en route. He's in California, in town for his Genesis golf tournament that he handed the winning trophy away on Sunday to. He was on his way to meet Drew Brees and Justin Herbert for a photo shoot yesterday morning, right around this time, really, as police were called at 7:12 a.m. Pacific Standard Time yesterday morning to report to a single car accident that included Tiger Woods, and Tiger had to have the jaws of life extricate him from the car yesterday morning, as it was a very scary situation yesterday morning, where the police commented and said that Tiger Woods was lucky to be alive. And if you've seen any images of what that car accident looked like yesterday morning, it is pretty miraculous that somebody inside of that vehicle is going to be able to walk away from that. Now, the injuries sustained are brutal, right? At least one compound fracture in his leg. He was taken by ambulance to immediately into surgery for what his agent called multiple leg injuries. But the latest report that we have, and this comes out this morning, is that Tiger Woods is recovering from a lengthy surgery to repair what a doctor said Tuesday were significant orthopedic injuries to his right lower extremities, suffered in a single-car rollover crash hours earlier on a steep roadway in a Los Angeles suburb. As a part of the statement on Woods' official Twitter account, Dr. Anish Manja of UCLA Medical Center updated the famed golfer's condition, saying in part that Woods had multiple open fractures to his lower right leg. He had a rod placed in his tibia and screws and pins inserted in his foot and ankle during an emergency surgery on Tuesday morning. So just a very scary scene, just a moment that when I saw the picture and I saw the crawl come across my screen yesterday, I thought that the news was going to be dire. I thought that it was going to be the worst case scenario just by seeing the vehicle. I mean, the front end of that car is demolished.
I mean, the fact that, like, Lloyd's got the picture up on the screen right now, the fact that we can sit here and talk about the future of his golf career is a miracle.
Yeah.
Because of the way this looks. I had a very close friend pass away from a very similar incident. And the fact that we can sit here and talk about whether or not he's going to be able to play golf again is awesome, I think. I'm very happy to hear that he's stable.
It says he was very lucid and calm in his interaction with the officers. Like, you wouldn't expect anything less.
Yeah, I mean,
Tiger
totally Woods,
But never panicked a day in his life.
Yeah, I mean, like, because how lonely are those 4 minutes, 5 minutes before somebody gets there? I mean, like, I was thinking about that yesterday, because of what Katie said, him being responsive, him being calm, him being able to communicate. I saw where the first responder asked him the date, his birthday, and he was saying it's Tuesday. My birthday is, I believe it's
December 30th.
December 30th. That's right.
Close.
Yeah, glad he didn't ask you. But dude, how nervous?
Turn my mic off.
How nervous must that doctor have been? You know, it's 7 a.m. You have this trauma accident. Somebody rolls in. It's like, oh, by the way, it's Tiger Woods. Like, oh, let me put it. You know, I got to go sterile up real quick. Let me wash these hands again.
And it's just
if I'm a doctor, that's what I'm preparing for my whole life. Like, let's show out. Let's do it. Let's do it.
I'm sure Tiger has his own doctor. They were trying to get in there.
So Tiger was he's in Los Angeles for his tournament, the Genesis Classic that was happening yesterday. A couple of supports coming out from some support tweets coming out. Phil Mickelson tweeted yesterday, "We're pulling for you, Tiger. We're sorry that you and your family are going through this tough time. Everyone hopes and prays for your full speed and recovery, your full and speedy recovery." Jack Nicklaus tweeted out, "Barbara and I just heard about Tiger's accident. And like everyone else, we are deeply concerned. We want to offer our heartfelt support and prayers at this difficult time. Please join us in wishing Tiger Woods a successful surgery and all of the best in his recovery." The support was coming out all over the place, but it seems like he's going to be okay as just far as the grand, the overall picture looks for Tiger Woods, because the scene coming out of that accident is brutal, man. I mean, it's just, there's no way to look at that and think that somebody is going to be fine after going through that. I wonder what his professional golf career looks like moving forward. It may be too early to have that conversation, but with him, it looked like being at least into a recovery mode. How long that will take to recover, who knows? But it has kind of been a peaks and valleys type golf career for him the last 5 years, right? I mean, there's been a lot of deep down into the valleys, and then, you know, there's been a couple of weekends where he's experienced some of the peaks, you know, most notably the 2019 Masters. But I wonder if he'll ever be competitive ever again.
mean, he's coming off his 5th back surgery. I mean, the dude is a total, just hoss with dealing with adversity.
Yeah,
if anybody can, it's going to be Tiger.
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest takeaway is if this was anybody else, you don't talk about golf. You don't talk about a comeback. You talk about I'm happy he's escaped with his life. But when it comes to Tiger Woods, you never say never. This man has battled back from anything and everything, and it's something that I'm sure he'll once he comes to and realizes what happened, he's going to get up and be like, well, I'm going to rehab and I'm going to do the things that I've always done.
Is he still in that mindset to y'all?
I think
he is. He still that type of
he
competitor?
still has that place in his head, yeah.
Yeah?
I think once you get to that point where he was in that mindset for so many years of just win. Like, he didn't have many friends on the tour. Like, that was just his life was winning. I think you can tap back into that.
I think he does. If you got into a view in Tiger's mind of just him, like he did it in the final round of Augusta in 2019. He wasn't talking to those people. He wasn't talking to anybody. On the par 3 and they all hit it in the water, he was standing on the green while they had to re-tee. So he was making his presence felt again. He knows how to tap into that a little bit.
Yeah. It'll be interesting on what his mindset is of getting back from this, because of all the injuries that he's dealt with the game of golf. This is something that he's experienced away from the course. And I wonder if it sends a message to him that it truly might be over. You know what I mean? Like, just get yourself right, spend time with your family, and, forget putting all that competitive juice into playing anymore because of everything that you've accomplished. It might be time to smell the roses.
I can definitely see
for
from
Tiger
that
Woods.
perspectives. Without
you know
a
what
doubt.
I mean? I mean, it might be time for him to smell the roses in the sense of, I don't know if the senior tour is a viable option.
He's got 5
for
years.
him.
Yeah, you got to. I think you start at 50.
He's got 5 years.
Yeah.
To get there. So he's still on the front end of that type of decision.
I think what he'll really do is Charlie Wood's about to get all the secrets.
Yes.
He's about to be walking whenever he can walk again. Tiger will be on the course with him, teaching him everything about
For
the game
sure.
of golf.
And that's one of the first things I thought of when I saw that yesterday was some of the lasting images that you will see of Tiger. I don't think in any more that will resonate with people than the 36 holes that he played with his son that weekend over, just over a month and a half ago,
Right.
where, you could just see the
spitting
genuine
image.
relationship, yes,
Yeah.
and just how much of an influence that he has on his son in the sense of, they look, their mannerisms
or
are
to a
just
T,
alike.
and they're doing them at the
Club spin,
same
yeah.
time. That was actually uncanny. It was actually a little bit bizarre. Like Charlie, it's almost as Charlie Woods realized, like, Tiger Woods is my dad.
Right.
Like, because every golfer that's ever picked up a golf club has emulated Tiger Woods in some form or fashion, and Charlie gets to see it every day, and he's like, well, I'm gonna do the exact same thing.
That relationship is probably indescribable already.
No, can you imagine?
Once something like this happens, I think not only for them as a father and son, but for us as viewers, it's going to mean so much more to see Charlie succeed, because he's going to succeed.
Yeah, no, he's going to be a beast.
already is.
We will talk to Billy Napier coming up here. We'll talk a little bit more about the Tiger Woods situation, as it was scary, but looks like it's going to have a positive outcome, that he will be okay, and has gone into recovery mode out in Los Angeles. Remember, if you're looking to sell your house this spring, or you're thinking about trying for sale by owner, then you need to check out Falaya. Falaya listings plans start at only $399. You can sell your house by yourself. Save thousands with Falaya. Online at falaya.com. That's Falaya. It's like the suffix of a Chafalaya. Falaya.com, or you can visit them in your Apple and Android app stores today and download there. It's no secret that we're trying to disrupt what happens in media and advertising here on the Jordy Culotta Show. My friend of over 35 years, Barrett Blondo, is doing the same thing for real estate with his new company, Falaya. I met with him at his own personal undisclosed location, and I got to see firsthand what Falaya has been working on. It really did blow my mind, man. They're putting all the tools once reserved for professionals right into the hands of the homeowner. It's basically for sale by owner on steroids. For more information, give my friend Barrett Blondo a call this morning. His phone number is 225, it's a 225 area code, 939-6153, 939-6153, or visit him online at falaya.com for more information. We'll be back. Set up Coach Billy Napier. He'll stop by here at 7:30 this morning. You're listening to the Jordy Culotta Show, presented every day by Go Chevrolet. Every time we talk to LSU head basketball coach Will Wade here on the Jordy Culotta Show, it's brought to you by Phil's Oyster Bar. Some exciting new things coming up at Phil's here during the Lenten season, including featuring new seafood specials every Friday in addition to the seafood-filled menu over there. And they're offering up brunch right now on Saturday and Sundays, which will have bottomless mimosas. Don't forget Monday night 50-cent oysters and $2 draft beers, all over at Phil's Oyster Bar. Check them out. They're online at philsoysterbar.com, but they're located in the South Downs Shopping Center, a staple here in Baton Rouge for a long time. Go tell Anthony Piazza and the crew hello. Phil's Oyster Bar. Hey, if you're in the market for a custom home, get in touch with our friend Rhett Bourgeois over at RMB Builders. They're online at rmb-builders, and Rhett can do just about anything you need around the house. He can build you a new one. He can repair the one you're in. He can remodel. If you need commercial construction help, he's licensed for commercial as well. He can handle an office renovation, building maintenance. Check out everything. It's online at rmb-builders.com. He's on social media, Instagram and Facebook. You can find him at the handle at RMB Builders LLC. But the website is fantastic. Check him out, rmb-builders.com. Hey, you know it's no secret what we got going over here at the Jordy Culotta Show. We're trying to disrupt how media and advertising moves forward. My friend of over 35 years, Barrett Blondo, is doing the same thing for real estate with his new company, Falaya. I met with him in his own personal undisclosed location, and I got to see firsthand what Falaya has been doing and what he's been working on. It blew my mind, man. They are putting all the tools once reserved for professionals right in the hands of the homeowner. It's basically for sale by owner on steroids. For more information, give my guy Barrett Blondo a call today at 225-939-6153 or visit him at Falaya. That's FALAYA.com for more info. Barrett Blondo over at Falaya.com. Changing the game in real estate.
You're listening to the Jordy Culotta Show with Rivers Huey, presented by Go Chevrolet.
Y'all can see right now on a live stream, we got the merch going. Lloyd's got the tie-dye. We all dripped out in the hoodies. Get your own at jordy.itemorder.com. You can get all the Jordy Culotta Show merch. Looking fly. Even got stuff for the kids, man. jordy.itemorder.com.
Our store is presented by Red Stick Sports, and over at Red Stick, they just posted a link to their LSU apparel on Facebook and on Twitter. Get over to their social media. We shared it on ours over at the Jordy Culotta Show. Everything on the website is in the store on Essen. They're just making it more accessible to everybody. They can pull it off the rack and ship it the next day, or they can pick it up in the store. Get over to Red Stick Sports social media to find out how you can pick up whether it is the Jordy Culotta Show merchandise or it is the LSU apparel featured over at Red Stick Sports that they can grab off the rack and ship to you today. We appreciate Cody Edwards and Brian Redmond for all of their help and support here. Going to talk to Billy Napier coming up here in a couple of minutes, and Richard Lipsey will be inside of the Undisclosed Location coming up at straight up 8 a.m. Really looking forward to our conversation with Mr. Lipsey about just everything, man. Really kind of the LSU board, what we've seen from LSU athletics, of the golden age of LSU athletics, especially football, since early 2000, the rise of LSU baseball. Mr. Lipsey was so much an influential a part of that, being a really good friend, still is a very good friend of Skip Burtman, and how that relationship kind of helped bud that baseball program into the powerhouse that it is and was in the 90s to still what it is today. So looking forward to our conversation. We'll answer your questions. If you have any questions for the Jordy Culotta Show, jump inside of the bunker. All you got to do is drop the hashtag, ask the JC Show, ask the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll get the questions answered here at some point. We're hoping to keep Mr. Lipsey for an extended amount of time.
Forever.
In the 8 o'clock hour. So, maybe somewhere around 30 minutes, it could be our sit down with Mr. Lipsey. So at some point we will get to the questions for the Ask the JC show. Just get him inside of the bunker, and we'll make sure and have him answered here before we get out of here. Before we get to Napier, Zion Williamson, you see this story, is going to be an all-star.
Yeah, let's go.
Yes, indeed.
We have the longest streak in the NBA for having an all-star.
Really?
Eight years.
Date back to Chris Paul?
I think so. It's the previous was 11, was Oklahoma City.
Wow.
They did not have an all-star, and I think Boston. So it's us is the longest streak in NBA right now for an all-star.
So Zion going to be an all-star for the first time in 2021. He earned his selection to the game as a 20-year-old in his second season. Zion becomes just the 10th player in NBA history to be named to an all-star game before his 21st birthday.
That's amazing.
Through 29 games this season, Williamson is averaging 25.6 boards and 3 assists in 32 minutes per game. He's shooting 61% from the field and 35% from three-point range while hitting 71% of his free throws. I referee CSAL basketball, and he looks like the kid that is bigger, stronger than everybody that you just clear out and say, go get us a bucket.
In the NBA.
In the NBA. At 20 years old.
In the NBA.
Tristan Thompson, who is a longtime veteran, tried to go up and block his shot on Sunday, and he looked like a mosquito on the windshield of an F-250 truck rolling down the interstate.
You're right.
He could... He's a huge dude.
Yeah.
I mean, Tristan Thompson probably weighs 260
He's an NBA
pounds.
player, man.
Tristan Thompson does that to other NBA players.
Exactly.
He ain't Muggsy Bogues.
He gets off of his feet, and I mean, he goes fly. His reaction to me was the best when he's walking towards the bench, and his teammates are like wanting to mess with him, but he's like, "You go try it, bro."
I
mean, you try to guard that Matt truck.
That would happen to me too.
I mean, it was the game was on the line. They come out of a timeout, and all they ran was an isolation for Zion. I mean, they ran the other 4 guys were standing on the baseline. Zion's at the top of the court. It is
Part in the Red Sea.
It is a prime example of a clear out. I mean, you see that on 8th grade basketball courts. Just get it to the bigger, stronger, faster kid. Everybody else, get the hell out of the way. Go get us a layup or a free throw. Let's win this thing and get out of here. Zion gives you the and one, and he hits the free throw in an NBA game under 10 seconds. And like they were remarking after the game, that was in regulation when that happened. The game ended up going to overtime because Jason Tatum hit just a sick left-handed floater with his right hand over Zion on the next possession that pulled the game into overtime. But the Pelicans were able to prevail and win by 5. But I thought that was a moment where Zion can look back on his career and say, I took another step that day. Like, he's by no means is he there or has he arrived. Making an all-star game is beautiful in his second season. But that moment of Stan Van Gundy calling a timeout and having in the huddle both Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson and drawing up the play for Zion Williamson, that does a lot for your confidence as a player right there. Knowing that everybody in that huddle probably thinks the ball's going to Ingram.
Right.
And if it did, you really couldn't argue it.
No, you couldn't.
But it goes to Zion, and he makes the play, and you end up winning the game. I think what happened to Zion over the weekend from a confidence standpoint, not that he's going to just explode because he's been great. I mean, I just gave you the numbers. His numbers are fantastic in his second season, averaging 25, 6, and 3 in 32 minutes. But I just thought mentally at 20, he will always look back on that Sunday afternoon in the Smoothie King Center versus Boston when Stan Van Gundy really believed in him for the first time to go win the game. I mean, that's what he told Zion with 10 seconds left. Everybody clear out. Z, go get the ball at the top of the key and win the game for us. And he did. And now he's an all-star, and now it's scary to think on what the ceiling really is for Zion.
Gosh.
I mean, if he can shoot the ball from three-point range, he's shooting at 35% right now. Let's say he gets to 40%, which I think is feasible.
Yeah, I think you can do that.
And he's averaging 25 a night, and his shooting, he shoots 62% from the field. I just the thought of what he could be, of what he could evolve into. Now, what scares me the most is his body, right? I mean, he's just got the ability where one offseason, one injury, and he's not active, he could blow up to 300 pounds. And I don't know how you keep that frame in shape just putting the pressure on the joints and the muscles, just jumping, bouncing every night like he does. I mean, his ability to get off the ground is his biggest advantage. When he loses that, I don't know what type of player he'll become, but I just think that it is going to be a fascinating watch to see him evolve from here, because it feels like his confidence is at a high clip. His peers obviously respect him with the all-star nod, and the fans obviously believe in him. And he's 20. I mean, he's 20 years old, bro. I mean, he's 20 years old, and he's dominating pros. He's dominating NBA players.
I'm just so happy he's on our team.
I know.
And we don't have to go up against him.
I know.
Because, you don't have a solution for that. I mean.
Hilton Guidry. So the Pels have the longest streak of all-stars with AD, Brandon Ingram, Zion, and they had Chris Paul and David West, too. How many playoff wins do they have? Well, I think would they take San Antonio to 7 that season?
They won a series in 2007.
Yeah.
They beat the Spurs.
Well, no, and then they beat Portland.
They went to the
with Anthony Davis.
Yeah, in 2017.
Yeah. And then got knocked out after that by, I believe, Golden State.
Yeah.
Knocked him out.
Dude, that Portland series was great.
It was great.
I love that.
It was great.
You look back at it, makes you miss Drew Holiday after what Dame Dollar did.
Oh, I'll always miss Drew Holiday, bro. Drew Holiday was
that was a great series. But now is the time where you have to start taking these next steps in the playoffs. I mean, now is the time where you have to, start making some inroads on. It's a process, and we could talk to Mr. Lipsey about that, because LSU baseball experienced that same type of mountain climb. Right, like in the 80s, 86, that Papa John team that went to the World Series. And then you go back in 89 with Ben McDonald, who gives up the grand slam to Texas A&M. That team was really thought to be a player on the national scene. Then 91, you break through and win it, and the next thing you know, you got 5 of them in the 90s. It'll be interesting to see how this is this evolution of the Pelicans happens, with Zion kind of budding in front of your eyes. He's starting to grow up, starting to mature as a basketball player and as a pro.
Where do you think that they're at right now in terms of playoff success? Like, is it okay if they either don't make it or first round exit this year?
I think they need to make it to the first round.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think anybody has any expectations to go in there and make any noise in the West, but they need to make the playoffs.
Is it cause for concern if they're not getting into the second, third phase of it by next year?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, every year it's a ladder, right? I mean, you're climbing the ladder, and trying to continue to this year first round, next year second round. Maybe the next year you get bumped in the second round again, but it's progressively. Right. You gotta get there. All right, let's link up with Coach Billy Napier here, as we will call Patrick Crawford, our guy down in Lafayette. You can bump me up here as we will talk to Patrick Crawford and Coach Napier here on the Jordy Culotta Show, as he will join us here this Wednesday morning. Patrick?
Yes, we're here.
Yes, sir. How are you?
Pretty good. I got Coach Napier right here.
Thank you very much. We are here on the Jordy Culotta Show, presented by Go Chevrolet, here on this Wednesday morning.
Perfect timing.
As we link up with the UL Ragin Cajuns head coach. As we said, maybe one of the hottest names in college football, as his program over the last 3 years, really the accomplishments speak for themselves, as 3 years on the job, a piece of the Sun Belt title, of the Conference USA title for the last 3 years, 28-11 in those 3 seasons, and it has been an incredible run for Coach Billy Napier and the Ragin Cajuns. He's joining us now on the Jordy Culotta Show. Coach, it's good to talk to you again. Good morning. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, Jordy, thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate you guys covering our team and, starting over, and really excited about this 21 group.
Coach, your team last year had so much expectation going into the season. What is the mindset of this group? You were very veteran-laden last year with your team. What with the turnover and roster, I know that it is a process for you. What does this part of the process look like?
Well, to be honest with you, Jordy, we've got a huge contingency of players back. I think a lot of production returning. I think we've been able to take advantage of the COVID-19 extra year of eligibility. 11 seniors made a decision to come back and play a bonus year. We also have added 11 players at mid-semester from the recruiting class. So, we're working with about 125 players at this point. And I've been very pleased, certainly I think we kind of there were some things left out there at the end of the year last year, with the conference championship game getting canceled, missing out on that opportunity. So we've had a little edge about us. I've been really impressed with the quality of work at this point, and I do think some of that experience that we've had in the past will help us, but it certainly is not going to win us a game next year. So, we're in phase 2 now, the identity program, and, a little bit better each day, but still very much a work in progress here.
I know everything for you is about moving forward, and you rarely look back, but can you take me back to that position where you guys were set up to maybe be playing one of the biggest college football games of last season, where you guys were set to tee off against Coastal Carolina for a conference championship, and then within 24-hour window of that game, it is called off and decided that it will not be played at all. What was the mindset for you, your coaching staff, and your players during that time?
Well, we had 15 days to get ready to play that game. As much like maybe having a bye in the NFL playoffs or having that 2 weeks to get ready to play the Super Bowl. Much more time to prepare. I feel like we were probably the most prepared to play a game since I've been here. Just observing our players and our staff, I thought we were well prepared. We had already traveled to Myrtle Beach.
Wow.
And had to have a team meeting at 10:30 at night. So, tough dynamic. I think certainly last year presented a number of issues. That was one of them. But I do think that those things present opportunities to learn, to adjust. Sometimes the difficult things that we go through in life really, when we look back, can help us. And certainly I think that's the approach we've taken here.
You guys go on to win the bowl game over Texas San Antonio, 31-24. Elijah Mitchell has a great day. Levi Lewis finished with 2 touchdowns. Those guys had such a huge impact on your program and what you guys have accomplished over the last 3 seasons. What is the status of Lewis? Will he take advantage of that rule?
Yeah, Levi's coming back. We're certainly excited about that. He was one of the first seniors to come out and vocally say that publicly. And he's relentless as usual. I see him really working to improve so far. And a guy that, it's been really has a pulse on our program, has a great feel for where we're at, what we need to do. He's certainly made me better as a coach. And we're excited to have his leadership and his production returning next year.
Coach, as I said, coming in 28-11 in your 3 years in Lafayette, 21-4 in the last 2 seasons. Your name has popped up all over the country as far as openings when college jobs are there. But you're back in Lafayette. And can you just talk about the pride in what you have and what you guys have accomplished in the first 3 seasons, and why you may be not content, but it seems like you are challenged and very happy down in Lafayette and doing what you guys are doing each year?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I really I've been fortunate in my career to have a number of different jobs in different leagues, different parts of the country. And I think I've got a little bit of a different perspective. I think one of the things I really appreciate about working here is I think we've got dynamic leadership. I really have a lot of respect for our president and our athletic director, Dr. Savoy and Dr. Maggard, the resources that they've provided, the things that they've put in place to allow us to execute our plan, to be able to hire really good people. And certainly we all know that from a recruiting standpoint, there's a ton of talent within driving distance of here. We've been able to evaluate, recruit, and improve our roster. My wife and young family, I've got young kids. My kids are 8, 6, and 4. And we certainly appreciate the quality of life, the people, the hospitality. I think that it's been a heck of an experience and one I'm very thankful for. And I'm still a young guy, right? I'm 41 years old. We've just been here 3 seasons. We're going into year 4. There's work left to be done here. There's things that I feel like we can accomplish. And I'm excited about that vision, the challenge of that, and certainly looking forward to 2021. I think we can do it better than we've ever done it before here.
Can you talk about your recruiting philosophy? You were on the staff with Nick Saban and Dabo Swinney at Alabama and Clemson, respectively, and both had a reputation on that staff of being a dominant recruiter. And then when you went out west to Arizona State, you were able to come into this part of the country and get a couple of players. Can you talk about your philosophy now as the head coach of a Louisiana college and how you focus on this state first and then work inside out?
Yeah, we take an approach. We really are patient. We kind of take 1 year at a time approach. Very thorough in our evaluations. I think the evaluation part is very underrated. I think you've got to have a team effort in the organization, from your personnel department to area coaches, position coaches, coordinators, and certainly myself, very involved in that evaluation part. And then once we declare kind of who fits what we're trying to do, then we work really hard at the recruitment part, and we've got well-defined roles in the building. We certainly take an inside-out approach. We start with Louisiana, just the in-state players first, and we don't go beyond that. So we've got a really good feel for who's out there and how they fit what we do. Then we kind of move out to that second group of players in the 300-mile radius. And then there's kind of a third ring of players in that 6.5-hour radius. And we recruit all the junior colleges in the country to go along with that. So, really an inside-out approach, very thorough in the evaluation part. I think it takes a team effort in recruiting, right? You've got to remain objective. I think sometimes our ego can get in the way, and we tell a half-truth here or there, and all of a sudden get a little too subjective. I think the important part is everyone's on the same page. And when we take a player, we've got a lot of confidence and belief in that player, not only physically, but also the type of person he is.
Billy Napier joining us from UL Ragin Cajun. He's the head football coach down there. 3rd season, he's had a piece of 3 Sun Belt titles during his time in Lafayette. I read where you keep a journal every day, and you go to it every day, and you talk about whether it's family, football, or what's going on with your program, and you learn that under Nick Saban. How much do you go back to that journal for past ideas that you may have, or what is the role of that journal, and what does it play into your coaching philosophy each and every day?
Well, I think we're always trying to improve. I think I've been fortunate to work for a lot of good head coaches, but I've also observed some of the best assistant coaches in the country and maybe how they went about doing things. It's one of the things that gets overlooked a little bit, and I think this is, it's a way to reflect on maybe what's going on with yourself, with your family, with your team. Maybe that's your faith. For me, it certainly is. But in general, I think being able to go back and look at what was going on with your organization at that point in time, the mistakes you made, the things you learned, trying not to make those mistakes again, and really trying to get, just a little bit better at your process, right, at your systems, all your protocols that you got in place to try to help you be more efficient. That's what it's about. It's just about getting better. and that's the way that I've found allows me that to be able to do that. So, I think every person's a little bit different. I've got my way of doing things. Certainly, you got your way of running your show. So, in general, I think it's just a way to organize, our staff and our team and what we need to do to make improvement. And certainly that's the approach we take.
You had some turnover on your staff. Most notable people familiar on this show listening will be able to familiarize with Rob Sale, who's a former LSU offensive lineman who was your offensive coordinator, who's moved on to the New York Giants offensive line. What goes into replacing guys like that on your staff? What are you looking for? And what did Coach Sale bring you every day as he's moving on?
Well, we're extremely proud of Rob. Rob was here with us the first 3 years. He and I worked together at Alabama, at Arizona State, certainly here for 3. A huge part of what we've been able to establish here. And man, I couldn't be more excited to be working in the National Football League and really working for a guy that's a good friend of ours, Joe Judge, with the New York Football Giants. And, I think for him to get that opportunity and also get it with a person that we know and trust was outstanding for him and his family. But in general, I think hiring people is probably the most important thing that you do once you get into leadership position. And it's a very thorough one. I think we've been spending a lot of time on that this year, trying to make good decisions in terms of the people that we bring in, people that have class, have character, have integrity, that have a certain competence and expertise at what they do, and certainly the recruiting footprint that we recruit. So, I'm excited about the people we've added. We're about, it's really a normal year here. People, when I look back, we lose 5 or 6 people each year so far, and we're right on schedule this year. We're always having to replace people. It's part of doing business, right? I think for me, I'm happy that it's happening because we've had success, and people are getting well-deserved opportunities. Rob's a great example of that, and hopefully we'll continue to have that.
I follow, obviously, Louisiana Ragin Cajun football on Twitter, Coach, and last week I saw the picture come out of you standing on the mound at Teague Field. You looked pretty nervous before you were firing off that pitch. They didn't show any video there. It was just a couple of still shots. How'd you chunk it?
That picture was from a couple years ago. I think maybe the first year I was here. But, a lot of arc on that throw is what I would tell you. Certainly, we got it over the plate, but I think it took a long way to get there is what I would tell you.
Hell yeah, man. At Ragin Cajuns FB is where you follow them on Twitter. LSU will be down there tonight for a big contest versus the Cajuns. Last one, we'll get you out of here, Coach. The emphasis on the offseason for you guys. Obviously, you have been tabbed as probably the program in the conference in the Sun Belt for what you've accomplished the last 3 seasons. What is your point of emphasis for your program this offseason before you guys tee it up next fall?
Well, I think you got to start over. You got a new group of people, new leadership amongst the players, new rookie players on the team that have no clue how you operate and the expectations. I think same thing could be said for new staff. We're fortunate. We got some veteran players. We do have some veteran coaches. So getting everybody up to speed. I think it's about defining expectations, being really consistent and fair, holding people accountable. And I think as coaches, our deal is we got to take the people that we've been given and we get the most out of those people, right? Get them to play at a high level. I think that's what we all strive for. And at the same time, I think we're trying to teach them a lot about life, with the things that we, our values, our core statements, being a part of our organization and our team. So in general, it's everybody's undefeated. Everybody's got a good record right now. Everybody's got hope. A lot of roles are being earned and created as we speak. So we are 4 days into identity program, which is our second phase, and 22 days to go. Now that's where our focus is at this point. We're really trying to attack the work that we've got prescribed each day. And, every team's got an off-season program. I think we try to take tremendous pride in how we do ours, and certainly got a lot of conviction and belief in how we do it here.
As well as respected of head football coaches you'll find around the country, Coach Billy Napier and the Ragin Cajuns will open up their regular season in 2021 in Austin versus Steve Sarkisian and the Texas Longhorns on September 4th. Coach, we'll definitely talk to you before then. We appreciate your time. Have a good offseason and have a good weekend. Thank you.
All right, Jordy. Thank you, man. I'll see you around.
Yes, sir. Here's Coach Billy Napier checking in from Lafayette this morning as Coach Nape and the crew get ready for another season. Very patient, 41 years old. Everybody has knocked on his door. Auburn had a deal done with Coach Billy Napier last year, and right before they finalized the deal, they told him who he could and could not hire as assistant coaches, and he said, I'm out. Mississippi State wanted to talk to him. They had a couple of stipulations on the job. He said he's going to wait for the perfect opportunity. South Carolina wanted to talk to him when he moved on from Will Muschamp. I don't know if he took the interview there, but I know that he was in discussions with an open South Carolina vacancy. Everybody who's got an opening is curious about what the status is with Billy Napier. If you listen to that conversation, he's very patient. He knows he's still young. He's still accomplishing things at a very high level down in Lafayette, and he's waiting for the perfect opportunity. Kirby Smart did that. He waited nearly a decade coaching for Nick Saban. Now he's the head coach at Georgia. He's played for a couple of SEC championships and a national championship. Is he overrated? It's to be debated, but that's the job that he wanted. That's the one that he was waiting on, and he got it. I think Napier is waiting on that chance.
You got to respect that level of self-discipline.
Yeah, you really do.
Yeah.
I mean, that's such, especially in this world of like instant gratification. You know, waiting for that opportunity.
You know how hard it is to turn down one of those Power 5 jobs?
Dude, I mean, yeah. Like,
you know how hard it
like
is to turn down an SEC job?
A lot of commas in that
only
contract.
14,
Yeah, I
there's
know.
only 14 of those on the planet.
Man,
Only
a lot of
14,
respect.
only 14 SEC head football coaches on the planet that get paid a minimum of $5 million a year to work that program. Napier's one of the best college football coaches in the game. He could have had any of those. He's a Tennessee native. I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee would have just reached out to his agent and asked if he was interested.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's, the ability to go home and coach an SEC program. Good for him. He's the best, man. I'm telling you, he is a great, as far as people that have worked for Nick Saban, that people that understand the program that Nick Saban runs, when people talk about coaches that will succeed or will have success outside of the Saban umbrella, usually the top two names that come off are Lane Kiffin and Billy Napier. I mean, it's usually Napier is right there with Lane Kiffin as the guy that he's the beast.
I wouldn't be surprised if when it's all said and done that he's one of the best to come out of that coaching tree.
I agree.
If not the best.
And it could be argued up to this point, he already is.
Right.
Johnson Spillers brings you the Jordy Culotta Show every single day. Make sure and stop in and see Dr. Chad Spillers and Dr. Johnson today. 2 locations. One location right here in Baton Rouge on Perkins Road in between Segan and Bluebonnet, and then out in Prepara Road in Gonzales. Everything that you could imagine that dentists could offer, Johnson Spillers can do it for you. Whether it's pediatric dentistry, they can get you, they can take care of your fillings, they can take care of your molds, whatever it may be today over at Johnson Spillers, they can take care of it for you. Online, johnsonspillers.com. They're on social media. They're on Facebook. They're on Instagram. Make sure and stop in and see them and tell them you heard it right here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Dr. Chad Spillers and the group over there at Johnson Spillers Dentistry, the official dentists of the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll take a couple of we'll take a break and come back, and we will set up Mr. Richard Lipsey, who will be in studio with us at 8 a.m. this morning right here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Hey, you know it's no secret what we got going over here at the Jordy Culotta Show. We're trying to disrupt how media and advertising moves forward. My friend of over 35 years, Barrett Blondo, is doing the same thing for real estate with his new company, Falaya. I met with him in his own personal undisclosed location, and I got to see firsthand what Falaya has been doing and what he's been working on. It blew my mind, man. They are putting all the tools once reserved for professionals right in the hands of the homeowner. It's basically for sale by owner on steroids. For more information, give my guy Barrett Blondo a call today at 225-939-3333. 6153 or visit him at Falaya. That's FALAYA.com for more info. Barrett Blondo over at Falaya.com. Changing the game in real estate. Can you be assured that the air and surfaces in your home are clean, sanitized, and safe for you and your entire family? You can now by logging on to Valera.com/Jordy Culotta, where you, your home, your office, your family can be protected 24/7 with active pure technology. This NASA-based science has proven 99.9% reduction of airborne SARS-2 and COVID-19 virus in just 3 minutes. Log on now to Valera.com/Jordy Culotta.
Have a late night and can't make it for the Jordy Culotta Show at 7 a.m.? No worries. Catch us on demand on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast.
Every time we talk to LSU head basketball coach Will Wade here on the Jordy Culotta Show, it's brought to you by Phil's Oyster Bar. Some exciting new things coming up at Phil's here during the Lenten season, including featuring new seafood specials every Friday, in addition to the seafood-filled menu over there. And they're offering up brunch right now on Saturday and Sundays, which will have bottomless mimosas. Don't forget Monday night 50-cent oysters and $2 draft beers, all over at Phil's Oyster Bar. Check them out. They're online at philsoysterbar.com, but they're located in the South Downs Shopping Center, a staple here in Baton Rouge for a long time. Go tell Anthony Piazza and the crew hello. Phil's Oyster Bar. Hey, if you're in the market for a custom home, get in touch with our friend Rhett Bourgeois over at RMB Builders. They're online at RMB-Builders, and Rhett can do just about anything you need around the house. He can build you a new one. He can repair the one you're in. He can remodel. If you need commercial construction help, he's licensed for commercial as well. He can handle an office renovation, building maintenance. Check out everything. It's online at rmb-builders.com. He's on social media, Instagram and Facebook. You can find him at the handle at RMB Builders LLC. But the website is fantastic. Check him out, rmb-builders.com. Welcome back to the Jordy Culotta Show right here on YouTube, presented by Go Chevrolet. We appreciate Coach Billy Napier for stopping by in the first hour. We'll do a little bit more preview of LSU baseball coming up this afternoon as the Tigers will take on the Cajuns down in Lafayette. We'll also give a recap of last night's tough game for LSU basketball. The Tigers will look to get right versus Arkansas on Saturday. I cannot tell you how honored we are to have our next guest here in studio with us. He is a friend of mine who I called earlier this week and just had an idea of getting him in for an interview, and so compliant, said whatever we needed, wherever we needed to go, wherever, what time. And here he is, Mr. Richard Lipsey, a good friend of mine and somebody who has such a well-respected name within our state, and I believe it is because of the passion that you have for our state of Louisiana that makes you so endearing to everyone. Thank you and good morning. Thank you for being here.
Jordy, I appreciate you inviting me on your show. I've watched it, and it's very interesting and a lot of timely subjects. But you're right. You said the right word. I'm passionate about Louisiana. I'm passionate about Baton Rouge. And, of course, I'm most particularly passionate about LSU.
When did that start? Where did that start?
Well, pretty easy. I went to the University High School from grades 1 through 12, and then 4 more years on the LSU campus. So I was a diehard LSU fan starting back in 1944 in the first grade. And I just enjoyed LSU. After I got out of the service, I came back and, joined the Alumni Association, went to the football games, and just have been very heavily involved for so many years.
And when you went away for service, did you always have the mindset that you were coming back to Baton Rouge, or when you went away, did you think that you will be gone for an extended amount of time?
I really did believe I would be gone for an extended length of time. My father wanted me to come back and run the business. I was in the service and I ended up in Washington, D.C., met a lot of people there. And when I got out of the service, I was offered an incredible opportunity to stay in Washington and work for a large insurance firm. But at the same time, it was just timing. My brother, who was working with my dad at the time, and he was an attorney, but he was still working most of the time at the old Steinbergs. And he moved out of town to go work in his wife's family business. And anyhow, when I came home after I got out of the service to recoup and think about my future life, of course, I went to work for Dad, and while I was thinking about my options, and that was 1964. And Dad literally just kind of turned the operations of the business over to me overnight.
Wow.
And I won't say I was stuck with it because I've enjoyed every minute of it. But I missed my plan. I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to go to business school. And then when you start working, you don't think about those
Next thing you know, it's a decade later, right?
That's right.
It's 10 years later. Mr. Richard Lipsey in studio with us here at the Undisclosed Location. Can you take me back to November of 1963? What that was like for you? So you're serving as the aide to the commanding general of the military district of Washington. And then shortly after that, you were the only military member in the autopsy that was performed on that November day for President JFK. That time in your life, what was that like? I know that you answered this question a lot, but this is just a fascinating period.
Well, I'll try to give you the short version.
You don't have to.
But the short version of it is yes, the general was kind enough to take me from Fort Polk, Louisiana, with him back to Washington when he was transferred as the commanding general there. And part of our duties were we met all foreign dignitaries that came into Washington. We took them, we introduced them to the president. We, every formal event in Washington, we were responsible for. And so naturally one of the things was state funerals. And we were preparing, General Eisenhower was still alive, as was President Truman and others. So we were prepared for this. And when President Kennedy was shot in Dallas, we heard about it. At the same time, the whole world heard about it. About 1 o'clock Washington time when we heard about it, closer to 1:30, and the general was coming out from lunch, and we had picked him up and just gotten in the car, and we were on the way back to our office, got a call from the White House to come to the White House, and by the time we got there through heavy traffic, it was, I'll say it was stopped and stunned. People were just sitting in their cars in disbelief. And so the next thing we know is we get a call in the car remember, this is 1963, and we did have a phone in the car at that time.
What did that thing look like?
Direct to the White House, and they said, the president's been shot, and the president's died. And we go to the White House, and by then there was nothing they could do.
Wow.
The president was dead, so we went to our office, started planning the funeral, and went out to Andrews Air Force Base that evening. Shortly after 5 o'clock, we went out there and waited for the plane from Dallas with the president's body. We took the body off the airplane, put it in a Navy hearse or Navy ambulance, really, and led the procession back to Bethesda Naval Hospital. Well, actually, our car did. General Wheel and I got on an Army, one of these old banana helicopters with the Marine Honor Guard and the Honor Guard from Fort Myer, the same gentlemen that guard the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, but they have their own burial group. And so we had, they were from the First Army. So we got on this big helicopter. We flew, took a short time, landed, and very shortly thereafter, the procession came in with the president's body. Well, General Wheel got out front with Mrs. Kennedy, and they proceeded to go upstairs to the 17th floor to the presidential suite to continue planning. We already had a plan for a funeral, but we knew it had already been told that Jackie had specific things that she wanted at the funeral. So the general handed me a .45 caliber pistol before we went out to Andrews Air Force Base. He says, when that body gets here, you don't leave it.
Wow.
So I went around the back of the hospital with the body. We unloaded the president's body in the morgue. I took him out of his coffin that they had delivered it in, put him on the table, and the photographers came in, the technicians came in, and we undressed the president and prepared him for the autopsy. Then the doctors came in, and then I sat there for little over 3 hours, just myself and the doctors. It's not like the movie JFK with a room full of people. It was just a couple of us in the room, and they performed the autopsy. After the autopsy was over, the president knocked on the door. I went to the door.
This is LBJ.
No, I'm sorry. I said president. I meant the general. General Wheel, my boss, knocked on the door. He said, let's lock this up and go change clothes. We were in our Army greens. So we locked the door. I put a guard on the outside of the morgue door, the front and the back. We jumped in our car, went back to Fort Myer, changed into our blue uniforms. At the same time, we sent our car over to the White House to pick up the clothes that Mrs. Kennedy wanted the president buried in. We zoomed back. We were gone for a total of probably 40 minutes, I guess. Went back, and just as we got back, the people from Gawler's funeral home in Washington arrived. So I unlocked the morgue, went back in, and I sat there with the three gentlemen from Gawler's funeral home for 3.5 more hours and watched them put the president back together. I got his clothes, I dressed him. Wow. And when it was over, I dressed him and I picked him up, put him in his coffin. And so theoretically,
I know, just amazing. Was there ever a threat of security when he handed you the
No,
was there ever,
like the
threat?
last movie that was made, Jackie, and she came screaming down the hall wanting to see the body, but She never left the room upstairs. All baloney. There was no threat of security. I had no problem. The only about every few minutes, an FBI agent would come in the room and ask me how much longer, and I would confer with the doctors or the funeral home people, and then they'd go back out. About halfway through the autopsy, about an hour into the autopsy, a knock on the door, and I went to the door, and it was a person from the State Department. And they said, Lieutenant Lipsey, you need to sign this. And I said, what is it? They said, it's just a document. It says, and remember this is 1963, said if you cannot tell anyone what you, is National Secrets Act, you cannot tell anyone what you've seen in this room for 15 years. Wow. And under penalty of $25,000 fine and or 10 years in jail. So I signed it, and so for 15 years, I didn't tell anybody what went on in the room that night.
How many times were you asked in those 15 years?
You know, seriously, the night that of the all this action that was going on and the funeral and everything going on at the same time, I made one phone call, actually, one to my parents and one to a cousin, just to tell them where I was, because they said, oh, we saw you at Andrews Air Force Base when they got the, and I told them where I was, not what I was doing. And that was the extent of it.
Wow.
And I went home. I never discussed it with my parents or anyone for 15 years, and I'll end it with this. About a week or so after that 15-year period was up, and believe me, I was not keeping a calendar. I never gave it a thought. But 15 years later, which would have been 1978-ish, I'm going to 8 o'clock. I get to my office in the morning, and I open the front door, that big front door of Steinberg's, and there was a black sedan parked out front.
Oh my God. No way.
Two guys got out of this black sedan and came up and said, are you Richard Lipsey? Yes. Were you in the United States Army in 1962, 3, 4? I said, yes. We said, we're the attorneys for the House Committee on Assassination, and we want to talk to you. So if you'd like to listen to that interview, just click on my name on the internet, on Google.
I read it last night.
And you can read that whole interview.
I read it last night.
The whole problem with that interview is that when they told me don't say anything for 15 years, I literally didn't. And they started asking me very specific questions. They had a chart and about the president, where he was shot, how many times he was shot, what did the doctors do, and so on and so forth. And I think they were trying to confuse me, but I managed to get through that interview, and I realized I probably could have been a little more definitive, but I think I got it right. And, just for the benefit of you all and the people listening today, there's no question in my mind, one person, Lee Harvey Oswald, shot the president. There were no shots in any different direction. The bullets came from the rear. There were no other damage on his body. No, he was not shot from the front. I dressed him. I put him on the table. I saw the wounds. I've hunted all my life. I can tell the difference in an entrance and an exit wound, and then all the evidence just points to the guy in the school book depository in Dallas that fired the shots. The angles were right. I mean, there's nothing to lead you to believe that anybody else fired a shot. Now, as far as a conspiracy theory, we could talk about that
Sure.
for the next 6 hours. Let's don't get into that.
How much did you consult Oliver Stone? How much did Oliver
Not
Stone
at all.
really?
Not at all.
Really?
Not at all.
Did you? What impact did that have on your life? You were so young at that time. I guess you didn't in the moment know what you were experiencing, the history you were experiencing presently. But what impact did that have on you as you grew?
Very good question. I'd never seen a dead man. And here I am picking up the President of the United States out of a coffin and undressing him.
Wow.
And literally, I was sitting about as far as I am from you during the autopsy, about 6 feet away, and watching them do the autopsy on the president. And it had a great impact on me, especially about 2 months after I got out of the service. I received a box about 18 inches square box from the United States Army, Washington, D.C. That's all it said, to Richard Lipsey with my home address on it. Had no idea what it was, and I opened the box, and there was over 250 8x10 photographs of me from the time we got to Andrews Air Force Base until the time weeks after the funeral when we were taking dignitaries, like the last dignitary that I took to see the grave of President Kennedy was Jackie Onassis, or at the time Princess Kelly. And she didn't come to the funeral, long story, and when she did come, she was Jackie's close friend. Jackie would not see her because she didn't come to the funeral.
Wow.
So they called General Wheel and said, you need to get to the White House, pick up Princess Kelly and take her to the gravesite. So there are just so many other stories, Jordy, about that, and people we took, and just things that happened for the 2 years that I worked for President Kennedy. I worked for General Wheel during the day, and after I met and briefed President Kennedy on several occasions, he had asked me to be his social aide. I told him I'd love to, but I worked for General Wheel. That was my obligation. So he said, well, just work for us, work for me at night, when you're not working for General Wheel, at social events here at the White House. So I did that for about the last 6 months that I was in Washington. So I had got to be very friendly with the president, and so much for that story. You want to talk about LSU?
I want to keep going. Forever. Mr. Richard Lipsey is here. Daily, we're brought to you by Landmark Insurance. I know you know BG and the crew, LANOIX agency.com. You need auto insurance, home insurance, business insurance. Get in touch with Randy, Brian, and David at 749-5640. 1977, you take over Steinberg's.
1963. 64.
What was it in 77 that changed?
77, I was in the retail business, Steinberg's, my whole life when I came back. And we're a retailer. And we just couldn't get, we had all kind of sports, athletic shoes, athletic equipment, but the big focus of Steinberg's was hunting and fishing, and particularly guns. That's been my love all my life. I think you know that.
Yes, sir.
And we couldn't get the supply of guns that we needed, firearms. And so what I did is I bought a local wholesaler, very wonderful gentleman by the name of Bub McNutt, owned what was then called S&S Wholesale Sporting Goods. It was located on Main Street, small building, had a nice, very small little sporting goods distributorship, and they distributed fishing and hunting equipment just basically around Louisiana. I'm sure they didn't go out of Louisiana. They only had 2 salesmen. The manager, whose name was Sid Neeson, and the salesman that started with him in 1953, Warren Vergitz.
Huh.
And
his son
Warren
works for
was
you
an
now,
LSU,
right?
Warren was an LSU player. He was an end on the team and hell of a football player and a hell of a man. And so I bought S&S, and I expanded it. We put in Converse shoes, and became the distributor for the whole southeast United States. And we grew. We built a big warehouse literally across South Boulevard from our store on St. Philip Street under the interstate, and built a big building over there. We moved it over there, and that went on for about 10 years. 1985, I decided I needed a little better business education. My brother had gone before me to the Harvard Business School on a 3-year MBA program, but where you go in the summer for 3 years, or they have a fall program and a summer program. I chose the summer program. So for 3 summers, 85, 86, and 87, I went to Harvard to get my MBA. And, you know, it's very personalized, and you have lots of opportunity to talk to your classmates who are all, you have to be presidents or head of an organization to be in this program. And the professors, you have plenty of one-on-one time with the professors. And after all the discussions, they convinced me that I was trying to be all things to all people, running retail stores and a wholesale operation, and that I should decide what I wanted to be. Now, and I'm saying this because anybody listening to this podcast this morning should listen carefully. You can't always do everything you like. At some point in your life, you need to focus. So what I did, I sold off my retail stores, and then I sold off all the athletic equipment, all the fishing tackle, and decided that I would focus on selling firearms, and solely firearms and nothing else. Think about it. You know, a rifle weighs 7 pounds, and you can put it in a box, or a handgun weighs 2 pounds, and you can put it in a box, and you basically have a $400 or $500 or $600 package right there. Well, a pair of socks, with, you know, 6 for $1 in those days. So you can either put a 6 pair of socks in a box for $1 and make 30 cents on it and ship it, or you can put a $500 gun in a box and ship it and make, you know, 12%. We don't get a lot of margins, anywhere from 9 to 11%. So it was an easy decision.
At Harvard Business School paid off, huh?
It really wasn't hard. I mean, we started off, Jordy, in 1980 1987, when I did that, there were 110 gun distributors in the United States. Today, there are about 22, legitimate gun distributors that buy directly from the manufacturers in the United States. 1987, we were the smallest.
Today, you're the largest, right?
Today, we're the largest.
Right. Wow. What a testament. That's incredible. Richard Lipsey in studio with us. How are you on time? I don't want to disrespect your time.
I've got, you tell me who your next guest is, and I'll
we
leave.
get off at 9 a.m. We'd love to keep you until then.
I can talk for a few more minutes.
Absolutely. Around that same time, Skip Bertman lands in Baton Rouge around the early 80s. LSU baseball is off the map. Nobody knows about it. By the time the 80s are over, they were about to knock down the door and become a powerhouse. The coaches committee that Skip Bertman developed behind the scenes. You, Mr. Blumberg, my grandfather, Frank Culotta, were a part of the originating members. Can you talk about the rise of LSU baseball under Skip Bertman and you guys as businessmen being influential in that?
Well, theoretically, there was a baseball team before Skip came, but there really wasn't. I mean, over the years, I went to maybe 2 baseball games, and the coaches then, right before Skip, Coach Smith and LeMay, I knew them both well, but, maybe sometimes 10, 20, 30 people would show up at a baseball game. And over the years, when they had a really good team, they would get a few more people, but nobody really knew about LSU baseball. Well, Skip came in with a plan. Bob Broadhead, as you know, was the athletic director, and he had known Skip from Miami, and he just knew Skip was the right man. Bob brought some good coaches.
He did.
To LSU.
He did.
And so he brought this coach to LSU, and I was among the first, myself and Wally McMakin, that Bob called to meet Skip. And, of course, Skip had a wife and 4 girls. I had my lovely wife, Susan, and 2 daughters. And my daughters were the same age as their daughters. And of course, the catch right there was I was the only Jewish person in Baton Rouge that Bob Broadhead knew.
Wow.
And so he said, perfect match. We have a new Jewish baseball coach, and he'll match him up with us.
Mazel tov.
Wow.
And so it was absolutely one of the best moves that Bob Broadhead ever made, and Susan and I have been so happy with knowing Skip and Sandy and their family all these years. So we took to each other immediately, and Skip came to Baton Rouge, as you know. You've heard that story so many times. He came with a plan. He had that yellow pad that he wrote on all the way from Miami to Baton Rouge with the list of things that he wanted to do when he got here. And he started working, and he checked them off one at a time as he accomplished them. Everything from painting the locker room to getting new toilets installed to getting a washing machine to dryer to wash the baseball uniforms.
Right.
It's such a simple things, but things that would build morale, esprit de corps for the baseball team. And of course, he was a champion at recruiting, and he was the pitching coach. And Skip was terrific. And, after that first year and the enthusiasm that he built, baseball was on the map at LSU.
It was.
One story I'll tell you that I know you've heard, but it's Skip's favorite story to tell, is that in the spring of the year, I think it was February, while they were still practicing. The season didn't start then until late February, early March. Anyhow, he said, Richard came to him and said, Richard, I want to put on a baseball clinic, my own baseball clinic. And I had this big parking lot across the store from Steinberg's. I said, okay, Skip, why don't we put on I said, I just want people to get to know me and my team. I said, okay, we'll set it for Saturday morning in my parking lot. You bring the team, and I'll run a newspaper ad. He said, good deal. So Saturday morning, 8:30, Skip shows up with the baseball team, and they set up across the street in the parking lot. I block it off. And then there are cars everywhere on the street, cars under the interstate, and just crowded as could be in the store. And as Skip says, what the hell is going on? He says, I've got 2 dads, 1 kid, and a dog out here for my baseball clinic. So he walks across the street and goes in the store. And I've got 300 people in the back of the store watching Ben Rogers Lee put on a turkey calling clinic. Skip says, I'm outdone. It'll never work. He said, I can't outdo a turkey caller. So anyhow, we all know what a success Skip was, did for LSU, put LSU baseball on the map. I was just looking at statistic the other night. I think it's 35 straight years now that we've led the nation
in attendance.
In attendance,
yeah.
Isn't that unbelievable?
It's unbelievable.
It's amazing.
And it all started with him.
Yeah.
It all started with his vision. Richard Lipsey's joining us here. Remember Edward Jones. Get in touch with Daniel Newman. Daniel.Newman@edwardjones.com. Financial advisor. He can help you out with everything 401k, Social Security. When did you fall in love? When did you become passionate about higher education? Because it seems like out of all the fights that you fight, this is the one that you fight the fiercest.
That's true. It started when I got home and got involved. I joined the LSU Alumni Association. I joined the cadets of the Old War School. But I think my main affiliation came with what was then the school. I'm trying to think of what the exact determination was. It was oceanography is actually what it was at LSU. They had several departments in this building out there, old Quonset huts at LSU before the new Coastal Environment building was built. And they had several departments. Oceanography was one of them, and environmental sciences, and just several other departments, all that belonged in one group. And Chuck Wilson was head of oceanography. He and I became really good friends. You probably don't remember, but I was very involved with the Grand Isle Tarpon Rodeo. My dad was involved with it before me. He was president of the rodeo. I was president of the rodeo in the early 70s. And I used to take people from that Department of Oceanography with me to the rodeo, give them that experience of actual firsthand being out there at the rigs and fishing, having fun. So anyhow, that led to the Department of Oceanography and me getting more involved. And when Mark Emmert was here, I went to Mark and said, look, you've got these 8 or 10 departments out there all under one roof, but they don't really work together. What can I do? He says, well, why don't you get them to write a paper and come back to me and let's see what we can arrange. So anyhow, I went back out there with nerve of somebody with no affiliate, no authority at LSU. I got the heads of all these departments to write white papers on what the hell they did. And I took them all back in a stack to Mark Emmert. He said, well, we'll make that the Department of Coastal Sciences. And then he changed his mind. No, we'll make it the School of Coastal Sciences, CC&E, SC&E. And so we got them all together, built them a beautiful new building. And it's got to be such an affluent part of LSU, they changed it to the College of Coast and Engineering, CC&E. And it's just one of the finest institutions at LSU. Well, because of that, and I was chairman of the advisory board, which I was for 40-some-odd years, and I've given scholarships to that college for 45, 46 years. So that really got me started. And then I got on the board, several other boards of colleges at LSU. I got heavily involved with athletics because of Skip.
When he was AD.
He was, it's still while he was baseball coach. 1987, Chancellor Warden came to me and said, we have a problem. Spent a lot of money on the stadium. LSU doesn't have any money to pay for it. You need to help me do something. So they had an organization called Tigers Unlimited, and we dissolved that, and I decided that I would start a foundation that was separate from LSU. So I started with the help of an attorney downtown, an organization, and I named it the Tiger Athletic Organization because it was TAF. It was being easy sell. Yeah. Anyhow, Chancellor Warden helped me get tickets in the press box. There was a north and south side of a press box, held about 400 people, maybe a little less, and he helped me get university to let me buy those tickets for Tiger Athletic Foundation and then resell them to people for a donation. And that's how Tiger Athletic Foundation was started in 1987.
Wow.
John Ferguson.
The voice.
My first president. I had 3 employees. John Ferguson, Jamie Dirch, but her name now, of course, is Jamie Graham, still at LSU, still with TAF. And the third one I needed, after several months, I was working every day out there. And I said, I can't keep doing this. I said, I need one other person to help raise funds. And John Ferguson told me, well, there's a great young man over in the Alumni Association. His name's Rick Perry.
Wow.
So I went over to the Alumni Association, talked to Rick, and I hired him. So then I had 3 employees, and that's how we started. And in 3 years, we raised enough money to pay off the debt on the waterproofing of the stadium, which was hanging over LSU's head. And so just during that period, I was on so many different boards at LSU, and Bobby Jindal appointed me to the Board of Regents. Right. Actually appointed me to the Board of Commerce and Industry. And after about a year of that, I called him and said, you got to find another board for me. I won't go into all the reasons, but I really was not comfortable being on the Board of Commerce and Industry. And so he appointed me to the Board of Regents. So I served on the Board of Regents. I served 2 terms as the chairman of the Board of Regents. And so I visited personally, I was the first person to visit every single college, 4-year institution in the state of Louisiana, every single one of them, technical colleges included. And I just made it my job that once a week I was going to either 1 or 2 colleges. And somebody from the office would go with me, and we went north to Shreveport, to LSU Shreveport, UNO, Southern Shreveport, and the technical schools there. We went to Monroe, we went to Alexandria, we went to Lafayette, Lake Charles, New Orleans, everywhere. We visited every college in the state, and I got a really good working knowledge of what it takes to run a school. But more than that, I found out the needs of these schools and all of the repairs that had gone undone over the years, and money not put away from it for it, and what sad condition many of our buildings were. Leaky roofs, air conditionings that didn't work, science rooms where the Bunsen burners are,
Yeah.
but the vents didn't work, so they couldn't use them. I mean, it was just walls cracking, leaking. So I spent 6 years literally trying to get money for repairs for these buildings throughout the state, and I got some money from the state, but they're still behind through no fault of anybody except the budget of the state of Louisiana, and colleges are not budgeted enough money. I'll tell you, John Bell Edwards has done so much better than previous governors, but still there's only X amount of dollars he can pull from. So that's one of the great needs in our universities in the state of Louisiana.
How many authors have you been approached by? How many people have asked you to write a book?
A lot.
Will you write a book?
A lot.
Will you?
I will. My daughter, as we speak, are talking to some writers, and we're trying to find the right person. You know of anybody, let me know.
I will. Absolutely will. Nobody knew a lot of the history. Everybody knew you as this figure that cared about LSU. I think that came to the forefront when PutLouisianaFirst.com came to light. And then when the leadership at LSU was just not performing, you were the man that really stepped up for this state, it felt like, and brought in to what now feels like the right people in the right place. Can you take me back to that time around the Joe Oliva, F. King Alexander, and the Put Louisiana First?
Let me take you back before that.
Yes, sir.
I've been very friendly, luckily, all these years with all of the presidents of LSU. I go back to Troy Middleton, who was, when I was in high school, was a very close friend of my parents. And then John Hunter, his son was in my class at the lab school, and just all the presidents and chancellors through the years. I knew all of them. And then there was Mark Emmert. And when Mark Emmert came to LSU, LSU began to change so much for the better. Yeah. It's been said that Mark Emmert did in 5 years at LSU, which most people would have taken 20 years to do. He turned us around, raised the grade point average, raised the SAT scores, raised the ACT scores. He said we may have a little drop in the number of students going to LSU for a year or two, but as we create the demand for we're going to be a better school, it will rise, and it did. And as the scores improved on the kids that we were letting in LSU, the number of students improved. The faculty, we got better faculty. People knew we were serious about higher education at LSU. We were looking into the future and not the past. And that's what Mark Emmert brought to LSU. Every single night at his residence over on the lake, he would entertain legislators. He would entertain faculty. He would entertain students. He would entertain business people. It was something every single night going on. He was a great fundraiser. He was a great speaker. He should have been president of LSU. He was a chancellor, but we had a president, and he was brought in as chancellor.
Was that William Jenkins at the time?
No, Bill Jenkins, right, and very nice man. But Mark ran LSU. But that's why today, and we'll get into that in just a second, we need a president. We don't need a president and a chancellor, because the president...
Too confusing, right?
The president has to give the chancellor the ability to run the school, so what's the president going to do? Where if we get a single president, he can hire vice president to take care of, say, the 2 agricultural schools. He can hire a financial vice president to take care of finances, and then 1 more vice president to take care of LSU in Shreveport, and LSU in Alexandria, and LSU in Eunice, and most particularly run the med school, which is a full-time job in itself. And so many LSU presidents have gotten tied up. I'm talking about since Mark Emmert, have gotten tied up in working with the med school. They've completely ignored the flagship. And so, quite honestly, you wanted me to get to that subject. That's what happened with King Alexander. He got so tied up with the med school and what's going on there, he completely ignored LSU. Now, some people say, well, that's the reason we need to go back to chancellor and a president. No, not at all. He came from a very small college on the West Coast. They didn't have a graduate school. They didn't have a research and development. They didn't have a law school. They didn't have an ag school. He came from a high school type operation to running a flagship university. And I'm sorry, stepping on toes, but he knew nothing about running a major college. And unfortunately, and people have heard me say it, and I've written articles about it on my website, Put Louisiana First, he was just a bad fit for LSU. Yeah. He knew nothing about a flagship, and he almost ruined our graduate school, and we totally lack in research and development. We lost a lot of grants we were getting, we lost, but it was a pitiful situation. Yeah. He got rid of really good people that LSU had and brought in all outsiders. None of them knew a darn thing about LSU. And of course, even before he got here, the board had hired Joe Oliva, who the people at Duke said, don't hire him.
It was unbelievable.
Don't hire this man. And I don't know why to this day that they did. But anyhow, I know what you mean, because I remember that. It was just a bad fit. It was two bad fits. Fit. And I'll tell you 2 things about Joe Oliva. One is that if you ever went to a football game or a baseball game, he was pretty much always there, up in his box. Mm-hmm. He never one time came out of his box at the football stadium and came down to West Stadium or the boxes and shook hands and said, "So glad you're here. Thank you."
To the customers.
The customers.
Right.
He would go in his box, close the door and lock it, and never leave his box. The same thing at a basketball game. He'd go sit in his seats, chewing gum the whole time, and never, ever say hello to anybody. And I'm sorry, he just was a bad fit for LSU.
That position has to be personable.
And of course, I won't go into other details about King Alexander, but thank goodness it took about a year of articles. But I'm proud of the Board of Supervisors. They woke up and got some good people on the Board of Supervisors that realized LSU was going in that direction instead of that direction. And they made the move and, first got rid of Joe Oliva and brought in a fabulous athletic director. And then just a few months later got rid of King Alexander, and they're in the middle of their search for a new president. And I'm very confident they're going to bring in a top-notch person.
I could talk to you about so much more and keep you for so much time, but I want to respect you, and I'll end here. You have empowered a ton of people and given a lot of people opportunity, but the one that I look at is your daughter, Lori, who is one of the most powerful women in our state with running Lipsey's and running Haspel's. Talk about what she means to your operation, and what is your day-to-day life like now? What is this Wednesday look like for Mr. Lipsey?
Well, we're running out of time here. I see. You're absolutely right. I have two wonderful wife and two wonderful daughters, Laurie and Wendy. Wendy, as you know, is a transplant recipient.
Yes, sir.
And she's become the state speaker for LOPA, Louisiana Organ Transplant. Yes, and she just does a marvelous job going around the state, recruiting people to sign up to donate life when they pass away. And she's really into that and just does a hell of a job speaking for LOPA. Laurie went into the business when she moved back from Atlanta in 1993, and I desperately needed help. She had no intention of going to work for me, but I convinced her to do it. And over the years, she went from working in credit to managing operations and so on and so forth. And she literally took over running the business. I mean, practically every day, day by day, right after 2000. And I made her the president. And then about 7, 8 years ago, I made her she really became the CEO of the company.
Yeah.
But she's changed the face of the company, the way they work. I was a micromanager. Laurie's a macro manager. And like you said, Laurie today, she's chairman of the whole sporting goods industry. She's chairman of the National Association of Sporting Goods Wholesalers. And then recently, just the last 2 weeks, she's been appointed to the board of the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which is all the manufacturers run the National Shooting Sports Foundation. And she's the only non-manufacturer on the board of NSSF.
What a testament.
She's out and around and well respected, but she's respected because of the way she runs the business and the way she works with the industry. And her passion, my passion is that business. I go to the office, I work on my personal investments and the things that I like to do. Laurie runs a business. Yeah. She's got Flint Burgess, Warren Burgess I mentioned. Right. Warren worked for me until he retired. And before Warren retired, I hired Flint, his son, who was a graduate of Southeastern and was in the banking business. Now Flint is president of the company. Laurie is the chairman and the CEO. And I gave myself the title of founder.
Good for you.
Which means I don't do anything with the business. I take care of my own business, and Laurie's nice enough to let me have an office.
I can say firsthand, I have been to that beautiful office in Industrialplex, and you still have the best office in the joint. So it's all added up. But real quick, last one. Our city, Baton Rouge, you are very passionate about that as well. How do you feel about the future of where our city is? I know that you were very outspoken on St. George.
Well, I was. I'm totally against St. George. There's no reason to split up our city. It would be ridiculous if a big company said, Amazon, I'm looking to come to Baton Rouge. Well, I'm looking to come to St. George. You know, Baton Rouge is the capital of the state of Louisiana. We've got the largest population in the state in East Baton Rouge Parish and the surrounding area. And we have a great Chamber of Commerce. We've got the Committee of 100. State government is here. You cannot split up the city of Baton Rouge like they did Atlanta and other cities.
Birmingham.
And see what happened to them when they split up and the downtown died. And we've got all the state offices. But we've got great areas of Baton Rouge. But nobody, could you tell me, I'm going out to St. George for lunch. Where would you go? Nobody's ever heard of that. You know, I can go to Baker. You know, I can go to Zachary. Those are towns. But no St. George. Don't split us up. But there is a problem, and the problem has to be faced. Let's get back. Pure public education. I know we're out of time.
No, we're not. You go ahead.
We're good.
You go ahead.
But I do want to say that we've got a new school superintendent here, Cito Narcisse, a brilliant guy. He came from Washington school system. He's been in several other school systems. I've talked to him repeatedly, had a Zoom session with him yesterday, and he's really on top of the school system here. I am firmly convinced that the East Baton Rouge Parish public school system and the charter schools can coexist. Charter schools are terrific. They specialize, whether it be in STEM or whether it be in music or the arts or whatever, but some of them are just general public schools. Remember, charter schools are public schools. They're funded with public school money. The only difference is a private organization has to come in and build the building, but they hire the teachers and the principal, and they run a charter school like a business. And that's what Dr. Narcisse has to do. He's got to get our public school system running like a charter school. He's got to get rid of the failing teachers and the failing principals. He's got to move them around, and we've got to get these schools in. We need more discipline in the schools. The truancy is awful, like 30% a day at some schools in the East Baton Rouge Parish. This all has to be corrected, and there's no reason at all that our public school system, East Baton Rouge public school system, cannot be run like a charter school is. And I think they've hired the right man to do it. But Baton Rouge, East Baton Rouge Parish, will never flourish to the extent that we all want it to until we get our kids educated. And that starts with pre-K. That starts when they're 2 and 3 years old. And Governor Edwards has done a good job of that, but we're not there yet. We need to do a better job. We need to put more money in pre-K. We need to get these kids socialized, every young child socialized when they're 2 and 3 and 4 years old, so that when they hit pre-K and the first grade, you know, their ability to learn to read and write and arithmetic is so much better. And we need to get these kids staying in school. We need to educate them. When they graduate from high school, in Louisiana, if you don't want to go to a 4-year college, you don't have to. We've got the greatest technical school system in the state, in any state. Right here in Louisiana, you can learn to be a welder or an automobile mechanic or a helicopter repairman. We've got so many technical schools in Louisiana, and we're starting to bring that down into the high schools.
Yeah.
You can't imagine.
Yeah, Walker High School is incredible.
You cannot imagine graduating, how much a person that doesn't graduate from high school but goes to work, he's going to make anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000 a year if he's lucky. A person that graduates from high school is going to make $30,000 a year. But a kid with a certificate, man or woman, with a 1-year certificate, they're going to make $40,000 to $50,000 a year. And a person with a 2-year training certificate out of that's graduated from high school, gets a 2-year certificate, they're going to make $80,000 to $100,000 a year. It's just education. Now, if you graduate from high school and you go to college and you get a degree, then, you're going to make, depending on what you graduate in. I mean, if you fluff through and
Sure.
just don't do anything except take required courses and graduate, you're going to go look for a job and be lucky to get a job. But if you graduate in a specialty, engineering, education, finance, business, oceanography, you're going to get $100,000+ job easily. But more importantly, you become an effective member of society. And then you become a leader. And that's what we need, more leaders. Your leaders are the ones that do go to college and graduate and become anything from professors, doctors, lawyers, Indian chiefs.
Right, sure.
And we need both. We need the Indian chiefs, and we need the Indians, and we need the people, the workers, but we need trained workers in this state, and we don't have enough trained workers, and that's why it's so important these kids get an early education, and we start them pre-K, give them a good foundation in grammar school, high school, and then college. But as I said, every kid is not cut out to go to college, but there are plenty of places he can go to learn to be a technician, plumber, electrician, whatever. It's just we need to focus on the primary education.
I am. I speak for people in this room. I'm very excited and thankful that you are fighting for our state. Yes. I appreciate what you do for us every day. And I don't know if you hear that in your position, because I think that there is a lot of people out there that are very thankful and grateful for just your presence every day. I can't thank you enough for coming here this morning. Just a couple of comments. One team, one podcast inside of the bunker. I muted my work conference call so I could listen to the rest of this interview. Nick Perino says, I worked my way through college working for Mr. Lipsey at Lipsey's. He was a great boss and a great mentor. Carol Foles says, Jordy, there's no question this is the best interview I've ever heard. Awesome job. Tom Granning says, please have him back. Jeff Marcon says, Mr. Lipsey's wisdom and storytelling in this time is legendary. Just a couple of the words of support. Thank you very much for being here. I cannot thank you enough.
Jordy, I've enjoyed it very much. You have a good program. You've taught me how to listen to a podcast. and I've got something new. My wife listened to this morning, and hopefully my daughter in New York is listening. She had to run up to New York for a quick trip, and Wendy's listening, I know, and I know my grandson Luke. Yeah. He listens to you. Matter of fact, he showed me how to listen to you.
Attaboy, Luke.
Let's go, Luke.
My boy right there, Luke.
And Luke's my baseball fan, and baseball partner, and
What's it like being a grandfather?
fixes everything I need fixed.
What's it like being a grandfather?
Well, you realize I've got 3 grandchildren. One's 25, works for Saks in New York. She left and graduated, and I'm just so hopeful that she'll go get a MBA while she's in New York. But she loves working as a buyer for Saks, and Luke is a senior at Southeastern this year, so he graduates and has no idea what he wants to do when he graduates, but I know he'll do well with whatever he does. And Marla, my youngest, is 21, and she's a junior at Arizona.
Wow.
And she does, interested in filmmaking and other type of work in the arts. So I've got 3 great grandchildren, and I'm very fortunate.
It's great to see you.
Good to see you, Jordy. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Lipsey. Thank you very much. We will come back in about 3 minutes and close this thing out. Thank you. Every time we talk to LSU head basketball coach Will Wade here on the Jordy Culotta Show, it's brought to you by Phil's Oyster Bar. Some exciting new things coming up at Phil's here during the Lenten season, including featuring new seafood specials every Friday, in addition to the seafood-filled menu over there. And they're offering up brunch right now on Saturday and Sundays, which will have bottomless mimosas. Don't forget Monday night 50-cent oysters and $2 draft beers, all over at Phil's Oyster Bar. Check them out. They're online at philsoysterbar.com, but they're located in the South Downs Shopping Center, a staple here in Baton Rouge for a long time. Go tell Anthony Piazza and the crew hello. Phil's Oyster Bar. Hey, if you're in the market for a custom home, get in touch with our friend Rhett Bourgeois over at RMB Builders. They're online at RMB-Builders, and Rhett can do just about anything you need around the house. He can build you a new one. He can repair the one you're in. He can remodel. If you need commercial construction help, he's licensed for commercial as well. He can handle an office renovation, building maintenance. Check out everything. It's online at rmb-builders.com. He's on social media, Instagram and Facebook. You can find him at the handle at RMB Builders LLC. But the website is fantastic. Check him out, rmb-builders.com. Hey, you know it's no secret what we got going over here at the Jordy Culotta Show. We're trying to disrupt how media and advertising moves forward. My friend of over 35 years, Barrett Blondo, is doing the same thing for real estate with his new company, Falaya. I met with him in his own personal undisclosed location, and I got to see firsthand what Falaya has been doing and what he's been working on. It blew my mind, man. They are putting all the tools once reserved for professionals right in the hands of the homeowner. It's basically for sale by owner on steroids. For more information, give my guy Barrett Blondo a call today at 225-939-6153 or visit him at Falaya. That's FALAYA.com for more info. Barrett Blondo over at Falaya.com. Changing the game in real estate. Hey, if you're in the market for a custom home, get in touch with our friend Rhett Bourgeois over at RMB Builders. They're online at RMB-Builders, and Rhett can do just about anything you need around the house. He can build you a new one. He can repair the one you're in. He can remodel. If you need commercial construction help, he's licensed for commercial as well. He can handle an office renovation, building maintenance. Check out everything. It's online at rmb-builders.com. He's on social media, Instagram and Facebook. You can find him at the handle at RMB Builders LLC. But the website is fantastic. Check him out, rmb-builders.com.
Do you want to sponsor the Jordy Culotta Show? Contact us at katie@jordyculottashow.com. That's katie@jordyculottashow.com.
Welcome back here to the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll close it out real quick, but before we get out of here, as you see, my girl Whitney Breaux, yo mama.
What's up?
Good to see you. I feel like I need a cigarette after that interview.
To say the least.
That was peak entertainment for the Jordy Culotta Show. I've been in this industry for about a decade. That's about as good as it gets, ladies and gentlemen.
Legendary.
That is about as good as it gets. You want storytelling, you want history, you want relevance. All of that was wrapped up in our last guest for 1 hour as he was on set here in the Undisclosed Location. Mr. Richard Lipsey, I would bet on him as probably the most powerful man in our state.
Yeah.
And he sat down for an hour with us and would have stayed longer if we would have asked him. Don't give us the
say that
anytime.
to Jordy.
Don't give us the anytime.
I see you tomorrow.
Don't do the anytime, Richard. You could be back tomorrow. But I don't know how we would I cannot express how much that means to us. Of him just coming and storytelling and sharing those moments. I mean, if nothing else, the November of 1963 story.
Oh my God!
Jesus Christ, man! Dude. I mean, like
JFK.
Undressing the president, bro.
I mean,
Front
he
row
put him in his
seat to
coffin.
history.
He put him into his coffin
That is
dressed.
unreal.
That's an entire movie in and of itself being scripted. That book is going to be amazing.
Dude, the book. Oh my.
The book's
God.
going to be
The book is
amazing.
gonna be
We got to
incredible.
come with an author, huh?
I
mean,
got
he
a
put it
couple
on the table.
names.
We got to come with an author. Okay, so we got exciting news here on the Jordy Culotta Show. We are bringing more content to you, and we are going to do that in the form of the Gridiron Show, which is going to launch on International Women's Day and is going to be hosted by my great friend, Whitney Breaux. There was no other person that was going to be involved with us. She was our first choice. She has been working her ass off behind the scenes to get this thing ready to go on March 8th, and it looks like we were all lined up and ready to go, right?
We are. March 8th is International Women's Day, so we're going to launch the Grit, that is spelled with a T, Gridiron Show. A little play on words there. But essentially, we're going to celebrate perseverance, passion, and lifestyle of women on and off the football field. One of my favorite topics. And really excited to be partnering with you, Jordy, and with the team and the JC Show. It's going to be an exciting ride, so I'm looking forward to it. We're going to do a weekly podcast, do a couple live shows following the Jordy Culotta Show. So if you want to tune in to the live premiere, right after the end of the Jordy Culotta Show on March 8th, we're going to launch the Gridiron Show. So I'm super excited.
And we're fired up about it. Behind the scenes, our team has been doing a lot of work to get this thing off the ground. And Whitney is going to bring her personality, her contacts list, and what she cares about, what her passion is to the Gridiron Show. And we can't wait to hear it. Every Wednesday, you'll be able to check out Whitney here for Women Crush Wednesday that will feature and promote what's going on with the Gridiron Show. But it is going to be, we're fired up. We're really excited about it. And as we said, it'll launch on March 8th. We'll have social media around it. We'll have everything that you can keep up with. And if you want to keep up with the Jordy Culotta Show, remember the podcast will be available to you today. It'll be a special podcast, obviously, with Mr. Lipsey sitting in for an hour. We also loved our interview and talk with Billy Napier, who is the UL head coach down in Lafayette, who's done a tremendous job of stabilizing that program and really bringing a lot of attention to the Ragin Cajun program. So for everybody here from the Jordy Culotta Show, today was a very special day for us, so we appreciate you being out there. Whitney Breaux, our newest team member, to Katie, Nick, Lloyd, everybody behind the scenes. Make sure and check out the podcast. I know that there's been some stuff going on with the Apple version of the podcast. We're doing everything we can on our end to make sure it's there. If you can't get it on Apple, you can check it out on Spotify, Amazon, wherever else you get your podcast from. In fact, we upload it to Podbean, which is where it lives, so you can go there if you're looking for the audio version. But you can always come back to YouTube and check out today's broadcast and go back and watch it. We appreciate the interaction, the likes, the shares, the comments, everything that went into today's show. We'll be back with you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. right here live from the Undisclosed Location. Don't forget the Gridiron Show will be launching on International Women's Day on March 8th. We're fired up for Whitney and our team, who has added a superstar to the lineup. So we'll be back with you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. for Ghost Chevrolet and everybody. Edward Jones at Vanaclean, Falaya Real Estate, Johnson Spillers Dentistry, Angel Oak Home Mortgages, Valera Air /Jordy Culotta, ValeraAir.com /Jordy Culotta, RMB Builders, Landwide Insurance, and Harper's Haberdashery. The Jordy Culotta Show will be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.